Fantastic. What an energy. They say in Minnesota that you know you're a Norwegian Lutheran if you sing "Stand Up for Jesus" sitting down. So you don't always get this kind of energy in Norway. It's fantastic to be here. What a pleasure to listen to these speakers up here right now. And actually, well, many, but two of my special heroes were up here. I mean, if I were to make a short list, Magne Furuholmen and Jan Egeland would both be on that list. Thanks for letting me come up after you. There is an old Western story that goes like this. One lone rider appears on the horizon. Another one, and yet another one. And in the end, the horizon is filled with lone riders. That's the way it sometimes feels. That you have a lot of individuals with all their wonderful ideas, but they never really come together. I believe that this place, whether we are now in the square or the round hole or the marketplace, I'm not sure, are we in the marketplace? Yes, we are. That this is a place for collaboration. My name is Johnny, as in Johnny Come Lately. You see, due to travel and extensive teaching over the last few days, I have unfortunately just come here. So I am indeed the Lone Ranger, also going by the name of Henrik. And yet from all that I have read about in the program and heard about things that happened both yesterday and today, I realize that I really feel at home here. You know the expression, my thought exactly. That's something we say when we tune into something or hear something and we realize, hey, that's what I've been thinking all along. And I think that this exchange really exemplifies that. Let me just add here that I'm also a close friend of the Business for Peace Foundation, another unique organization with its seat here in Oslo, which promotes the term being business worthy. What does it mean in our day and age to be business worthy? And I think that's in many ways what this exchange is about. What can we expect and ask of entrepreneurs and businesses today for them to actually serve our community and to give them the badge of being business worthy? I've been asked to see the challenge of collaboration, I'm here reading from the program, through the lenses of philosophy, history, and the behavioral sciences. Woo! Well, in the 10 minutes I have, of which 7:34 remain, I certainly cannot do all of that. Yet, let me give a stab at the philosophical take. Philosophy, as many of you will know, means love of wisdom. Wisdom is something so large, so intangible, that it's almost impossible to define it. And also it has to be brought into the concrete situation. The Platonic ideas way up there have somehow to find their place in this world. I love the old story of the boy who asks his mother, "What's the time?" And she answers. 10 minutes later, "What's the time?" She answers again. 10 minutes later, once more, "What's the time?" And she asks, "Why do you keep asking me that?" And he says, "I don't understand a thing. You're saying something new every time." And that's the way philosophy is, because wisdom has to find its place in the world. The term wisdom originally comes from the Greek term phronesis, which is translated into English via Latin as prudence. And the whole meaning of prudence is collaboration. It's about learning from what is already out there. It's about talking to other people and asking, what do you have to contribute? Without the community, without the city, there is no prudence. How do we do this in practice? Well, let me, in all possible humility, share with you some of my experiences from being 3 years on an interesting committee called the Nobel Committee. Jan, are you a member of Fremskrittspartiet, please? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not supposed to say anything about that, but it would help. This was internal Norwegian, and I have nothing to do with it. I just sit there. The Nobel Committee awards the Nobel Peace Prize. And I have had the great and humble pleasure of being part of 3 of these prizes so far. All of them are about what you're talking about today. The first one I had the pleasure of taking part with was to an unknown dialogue group from Tunisia. We hear a lot about the Arab Spring, but we hear even more about the wars. We hear about the tragedies of Syria, of Yemen, of Libya. In Tunisia, they were this close to civil war. But dialogue groups emerged from an initiative in civil society. And those were exactly people who were different, who were normally at different sides of the tables. You had employees and you had employers. You had human rights groups and lawyers, people who were used to being antagonistic. And they said, we have to get together and we have to get the whole country to talk. Cynics will say, that's nice. Kumbaya and all of that, you can dream on. This actually happened. Through this process, Tunisia got its constitution and it averted civil war. That's real collaboration. The next year, we gave the award to Juan Manuel Santos, President of Colombia. Once again, a country that Jan Egeland here knows a lot about. A country with more than 50 years of devastating war. And people said we cannot speak to the other side. It's impossible to speak to the FARC. They are criminals. And the FARC said we can never speak to the government. But the man who received the award last year said, of course we have to speak. We have to listen. We have to ask, what is it that you are after? What is it that you really want? And could it be that we both want peace? And this year we have awarded the prize to an organization that fights for the elimination of nuclear weapons. But they're not just activists. They have gone out there to speak and to learn with all kinds of communities, from security experts to nuclear physicists. We have to get together. And not least, we have to understand the concrete. It's so easy to sit there in your little activist box and be really sure that we are the best in the world. But you have to go out there and ask, what does this mean for the world? What would, for instance, be the humanitarian consequences of a nuclear war? It's been touching to see these things up front because they are about collaboration. They are about being willing to talk to that other party from whom you expected that you could learn nothing. As a philosopher, I draw inspiration from the Greek philosophers who talked about dialectics. But I'm also inspired by one of my other heroes. I have both dead and live heroes. As a philosopher, many of them are dead. Edmund Burke, the great British-Irish statesman, who talked about appreciating the collective wisdom of the generations, and who said that using our own small repository of knowledge is insufficient. We have to learn from the other. Why don't we? 3 things before I finish off. First of all, I think one reason is that we really want to do it ourselves, which is recognizable. I mean, we want to be good. Let me introduce you, who are not Norwegians, to another great Norwegian hero, Marve Fleksnes. Some of you are from Norway will know who I'm talking about. This is a TV character back in the 1970s, masterfully portrayed by Rolf Wesenlund. He doesn't have many friends, but he's doing his best. That's the episode where he's a radio amateur, the internet of the 1970s. He's traveling his way through the world, dialing around, trying to find friends. Not much happens until finally one day he gets a Mayday call, and he's so happy. Mayday, yes! I will make my mark in the world. I will save someone. And then someone else comes on the line too. Oh! And you get Marve Fleksnes' famous words, "Get off the air, this is my Mayday." That's a dangerous one, isn't it? You want to have the Mayday to yourself. It's an interesting expression, my Mayday. A Mayday is per definition sent to whoever hears it. If we hear a Mayday call in our world today, because of climate, poverty, injustice, the future of our planet, it's sent to all of us, not just to you. The second reason is I think we mistrust the other because we believe that we know all about them and we have nothing to learn. Once again, the Nobel examples are good to counter that message. But the third and final one is that we simply don't know about them. We didn't know they were there until we actually sought them out. Some of you will probably be married or have a permanent partner or have been married. Before you met your better half or significant other, you obviously did not know them. And then they became the most important person in your life. We don't know them yet. Make sure you know them. I was asked to see this through the lens of philosophy. I like that image. I heard the story about the man who said, well, I weigh 80 kilos with glasses on. And a friend says, the glasses, do they make any difference? And he says, yes, without the glasses, I cannot see the scales. And that's a pretty good answer, because you need somehow to be able to see the scales. I congratulate all of you who have arranged this, and all of you entrepreneurs for thinking big and thinking together. And I hadn't prepared to do this, but since I have 10 seconds left, I'll spend 30. Since I'm inspired by being here with one of my great, great pop heroes. I mean, I've followed your work for so many years. I love the last CD too, and all your artistic work. One of my other heroes is George Harrison of the Beatles. Some of you will know that. I'm on the radio tonight in something called Herreavdelingen, the male department. That's a program for men of all ages and all sexes. And I have a little vignette there called Beatles and Philosophy. George Harrison was told by his friend Ravi Shankar in 1971 that there's a great human catastrophe in Bangladesh, but the world really isn't paying attention. Could you do something? Like write a little song. And George Harrison said the greatest thing I learned in the Beatles was that when you do something, you do it really big. So he gathered together all of these diverse people, Ringo Starr and Eric Clapton and Bob Dylan, and they all came together for the first really big charity concert. People saying we have to get together and we have to make it big. That's what this is about too, isn't it? Bless you all and thank you.